magnificent. Thank you. You could just feel the waves in that, and those arpeggios in the middle. My goodness. The scripture this morning I'm going to highlight from what we've already read, again from Matthew 6. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to God who is unseen. Then God, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. I selected the theme long before this big week in world politics, not just the debate we heard or witnessed this week, but also there was a big election in Iran on Friday. There's a big one today in France, and then the UK has a big one of their own on Wednesday. This, coupled with two major wars, rising nationalism around the globe, and the coverage of endless presidential horse races in our own country, there just seems to be a cacophony of noise. And it's not just the advertising, the repetition, the social media feeds, the press coverage, but what I start to find so distracting, it's the intensity that seems to determine to place human importance above divine truth. That's what just seems to grate at me. Now, what we can appreciate is that noise is a form of free will. I respect that. It's our right to make our own decisions, voice our own thoughts. But what it assumes, and it has assumed throughout history, is that this human expression overrides divine law. My army is godly, yours is not. My country is righteous, yours is not. My party knows the way forward, yours does not. It's this greedy assumption that God plays favorites among his children. And the irony is that the ones who think they're the chosen people are the only ones who say they are the chosen people. We are clearly the favorites, and there's no option of co-favorites. To me, it's almost as if a petulant child says, I'm the favorite, and I know so because I say so. And if that were true, we would chuckle, and we'd say, right, just wait. When you grow up, you'll learn the other side, or sides, and then you'll start to see the balance of the equation, usually by painful trial and error. But what if we took the same approach now, watching adolescent countries or adolescent people, or parties tossing out the same ignorant rhetoric? We might say the same thing. Just wait, you self-centered lot. The unity of God overrides, supersedes, predates your current growth spurt, and that's all it is, really. Nationalities, people, parties playing at God. And we know in our heart of hearts that these selfish movements are trying to play God based on our own historical belief that God takes sides. It's all over the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita. The righteous versus the infidels. This is not a truth, but an assumption of all adolescent species that sees independence and separation as the only means of expression, instead of a temporary bout of simple growing pains. But we know better in our hearts as people, and we know better in our minds as metaphysicians. So we now have to look beyond the current spasm of attacks and see the greater picture in which we also live and breathe and have our being. Recently, my sister and I visited a family member, and whenever we go there, my sister constantly reminds me, psst, she says, treat the endless chatter like a radio station. Now, I understand that wisdom beautifully. I actually try to chant it while I'm there. Tune it out, lower the volume, change the station. But I have this annoying habit of listening to people. I really wish it had a kill switch sometimes, but it doesn't. So I sit in these conversations and I try to tune it out, tune it out, tune it out, but my fingers just don't touch the dial. My Achilles heel is that the station is locked in and I listen. And it's a habit we all may have. The inability to change stations, particularly when the volume is so loud. And we also have this cultural tenet, I must admit, at least by word, which is listen to the viewpoints of others. But it can be so exhausting. And as I'm positing, it is not the full divine truth, simply an evolutionary phase. So what do we do, being wise metaphysicians in a noisy world? We find the silence. And I don't mean the silence as a refuge, though that works as well. What I mean is the silence of source. Let's explore that further. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It's the primary foundation of sound, of all expression. So it's not so much tuning out the noise or changing channels or even finding a new affirmation to replace the old one. It's total awareness that silence precedes action. Always. Silence precedes all action. Like finding a quiet space between radio stations and even between the static. I acknowledge this does not negate the right of self-expression or freedom of speech or free will. Silence simply recognizes these outbursts as temporal, cropping out of silence. So now we can see silence comes first and then noise. Source comes first and then human chatter. In the Lord's Prayer, which we often recite as a future wish, may God's will be done on earth and heaven as if it's not now. But if we speak it, not so much as an invocation, but as the awareness of present truth, erupting from silence, it carries immediate impact. And not surprisingly, the Lord's Prayer in the Bible is the phrase immediately after Matthew 6. I'd like us to repeat that now. I'm going to say it first, just 5 ideas at a time. After I say each idea, I want us to feel the silence of that truth, here and now. And then I'll move on to the next one. There's only 5. Please repeat after me, and then sit in the silence of that truth. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom, and the power and the glory forever. And it is here. It is now. Even the Lord's Prayer acknowledges the silence between thoughts and allows the space for heaven on earth. As you go about the week, find the silence with a capital S under all the noise of the day. We may behave like petulant children, but God is here. God is now. And that truth envelops all human noise. All. Do not announce yourself by trumpets, but close the door and find your true reward. Many blessings to all of you.